Hello, saints, friends, and others. Welcome to the King's Dominion podcast, the official podcast of Dominion Church and Dominion Institute. I am Hope Wyatt. Usually my husband, Pastor Josh, is here, but I have a special friend with me today, Miss Belinda Toliver. Pastor B has been serving at Cornerstone Word of Life for, you said 24 years?
Yes.
For 24 years. Yeah. And so I'm honored to have her here with me today.
I'm honored to be
And
here.
I'm excited. I just love, anytime I get to spend time with you, I'm always excited. So I love you.
I love
but,
you too.
So if you caught, oh my goodness, if you, I sound like I grew up in the sticks, and I did, so.
It comes out.
It does. It comes out when, like, it's like, did that really just happen? Did I say? I just sounded like cornbread. But anyway, I grew up in a town with only one red light and a big chicken mill feed in the middle of downtown. So that's why I sound like
right.
that's why I sound like this. Anyway, working on it, trying not to sound so redneck. But anyway, I'm honored to have Pastor Belinda here with me today. If you caught our last episode, we were talking about, serving your pastors and falling under the vision and, hearing God when he's leading you from one pastor to another and just, serving and staying par for the course. In this episode, we'll talk some about saying yes and your continued saying yes. And I'd like to get into, staying with your pastors when it's hard, not necessarily when they're hard, like they're difficult to be around. But, there's seasons that churches go through where they're, under attack, where we've got this problem and this problem and this problem. And it's like, oh my goodness, will things ever get better? But in those times is when your pastors really, really need you to hunker down and stay and, weather the storm with them versus jumping ship and saying adios.
Yes.
So we can start wherever you'd like to start.
Okay. Well, as you were talking about that, what came up in my heart is, Joshua was in a battle with the Amalekites, and Moses was up on a hill.
Yes.
And he had his rod up.
Yes.
And as he would lift that rod up, and as he had strength, Joshua would advance on the enemy.
Yes.
But it got to a point where his arms were heavy, and so when his arm would go down, the enemy would advance on Joshua. So Aaron and Hur came on, sat him on a rock, Moses on a rock, and then they lifted up his arms on either side. So they're in a battle.
Yeah.
They're facing an enemy. And so in order to get the victory of that, that rod, which was a representative of the power of God, needed to be held high.
Yes.
And Moses needed help. Which is symbolizes to us that, the leaders can't always do it by themselves. Right. And so Aaron and Hur saw that dilemma, and they came on each side of them and held his arms up that rod. And then Joshua was able to advance on the enemy and ultimately defeat them. Yeah. And so when your senior leaders are going through battles like that, they need that support around them, because when they're going through something, they don't need you to add to the problem. Right. And so as much peace that you can bring to the situation, we had a guest minister couple at our church just recently, and over the years, when they are on their way out, they came in and ministered stuff. It's almost every time they've had a word in due season for me. At this time when they left, they mentioned, you've been here, we've been doing this for a long time, and every time we come, you're here, and that kind of thing. And they said, the best thing that you could do for your pastors is help bring peace around them. And so, which was a very, important word. This is their last word as they're walking out the door. And so I just endeavor, I know Pastor Robert, who is also an associate pastor and over our youth and young adults, endeavor to do that with them as well, is to help bring peace around them. Yeah. So when they're going through things, they don't need their associates or, their staff to add to that. Yes. They need you to rally around them and help them do that. Right. There's a picture of a Roman soldier, and, he has a shield, and the shield covers him from head to toe. And I learned this from Rick Renner, and he said that when fiery darts are coming at your leader, they would take those in actual battle. They would take those shields and they had hooks on the side of them, and they hook them together, and they would surround the leader, and they would also hook together over the top of them to shield them, to get them to a different position, to protect them, because they're the ones that's given the battle cry, or they're given the directions on what to do to advance on the enemy, and so they needed to be protected to get to the next level. And so with our prayers, with us bringing our supply, that's what we're doing. We're hooking our prayers together, our supply together to help shield them and protect them, keeping the fiery darts. The fiery darts come.
Yes.
But we can put our shields up and our prayers up to help protect them from those fiery darts. So in bringing our supply and our yes and our sticking in there with them when times are tough and things are rocky, the waters are a little rocky, it just helps steady the ship, when things are that way, and not bolt.
Yes.
When, maybe your flesh feels like doing it, but that's what's anchored me over the years, because, your brain goes, one way, your flesh goes another, and you're like, it might be easy.
Oh, yeah. Be a lot easier.
A lot easier. But the yes that I said to the Lord all those years ago when he was moving me is what's anchored me. He's not showing me anything else. He's not showing me anybody else as my pastor. And so I'm to be planted in the house of the Lord. Yeah. And it's not my decision to leave. And I know, especially in helping to pastor, someone years ago called me a sheepdog, and I didn't necessarily appreciate the term at the time. So I looked up sheepdog, and a sheepdog is one that helps tend the sheep. And so if they're trying to get out of line and that kind of thing, and so part of my call is to help them tend. And if I'm not there in my place, then they've got to whether get somebody else in that place and that kind of thing. But there's a grace and anointing on me to assist them and help them in those times of trouble. And and again, it's easy to stay when everything's nice and easy and that kind of thing. But what are you going to do in the hard times? Yeah. When the battle is on? Yeah. Where's your supply? What are you going to do? And so the yes that I did, in 2003, 2002, to stay anchored. Has what's kept me planted in the house of the Lord, where he brought me, and kept me safe too, and helped me bring my supply to them when they're going through things, and transition, or somebody coming in with their own agenda, and those kinds of things. Saying my yes helped me stay planted to help them. So,
we've recently gone through a severe demonic attack. The church, as a whole, it's been awful. And in seasons like that, where you know the cause of this, it's straight from the enemy. But instead of your people standing up and covering in prayer and hunkering down and doing what needs to be done to win, they jump and they jump and they're gone and they're gone. And so then it's just pastor left there alone, fighting it all by himself.
Exactly.
So, but thankfully we've had people in our corner that, from, our advisory board, like Pastor Mark and Pastor Rhonda, we've had others, and we've had a few in the church, family that have, gathered around us and prayed, and we've come through on the other side. But, you think about how differently things could have played out if those that, that had originally said yes, I'm here, God has sent me here, and you have my yes, and I'm here for everything, I'm here till the end, like all gung-ho, I'm here till Jesus comes back, I'm here. And then there comes a tough situation and a tough battle. It's like, okay, goodbye. But the honor and respect I have for you for being able to stay for that long, and knowing that I'm here. I'm here. God has sent me here, and I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere, until God moves me somewhere, which...
Exactly. And even from my perspective, because God didn't give me the vision for the church. He gave it to them as senior leaders. And so I may not know everything that's going on, but I still have to make that decision to stick to it.
Yes.
And stick to them to help them,
Mm-hmm.
even not knowing all the details
Right.
of everything, and trusting that the Lord is helping me to bring my supply
Yes.
to them, and I don't have to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another thing, with having strong personalities around you. We all have our opinions and then there's times even when the Lord is even emphasizing a certain department or area and that kind of thing. And, Pastor Robert might think, well, the youth are our future they're our future and we need to emphasize them, but if we don't pray, my part, we
gotta pray.
And then the children's pastor and then the men's minister and when everybody's wanting their different area to be emphasized. But sometimes that God is shoring up an area. It's not that he's negating yours,
right?
But he's shoring up a particular area in the church, or even the church at whole. I know even this year with our pastors, last year was a year of travel for them. Pastor Rhonda's book came out, and so they were traveling quite a bit with that. And so the Lord said, this year, I want you to stick close to home and shore up some areas in the church. And so they are sticking close, making sure departments are running the way that they should, making sure the vision, in each department is still going the way that they should, and those kinds of things. And us also getting in line with that. And so saying yes to that, even if, in their area they see something or that needs to be tweaked or whatever, you can't get offended by that.
Right, yeah.
Because of their view and the way that they're seeing things is different.
Yeah.
And that grace is upon them to do that. And so you have to make a decision. Okay, they're the leaders, and I have to make that adjustment again. And so I've told even staff members that have come in, maybe coming from different places, or they came in from a secular setting. This is not a normal place.
Right.
This, the vision and the plan that you are serving is in opposition to someone. And so with that opposition, he's going to throw everything he can at you to try to pull you out from from the vision. And so you need to be aware of that. There's a grace for you to be here and be in your position. And you don't have to tap into that grace.
Yes.
And so when things do get rocky, or things are, you may see some things differently than the way they see it. You tap into that grace.
Yes.
Lord, you sent me here.
Right.
I left my secular job, or I left this, or what have you, and you brought me to these pastors. And so, okay, I'm bending.
Yes.
And coming under.
Yes.
This vision. So.
And I always say, people nowadays are so touchy and soft. But it's not even so much as in the workplace, but in the church. Yeah. Because if you go to work and your boss says, "Hey, I don't like how you're doing this. Let's change it." Right. And then you change it, no problem at all. Yeah. But then you come to church and the pastor says, "Hey, I don't really like how this is going. Let's change it." Oh my gosh, can you believe he said this to me? He said this. He's trying to change. This is my department. He's trying to change it. And no. It's like, well, you would listen to your boss, at work, but then you can't listen to your pastor at church. Yeah. But then they want to pull that's just so controlling card, the control card. It's like, well, are you the pastor? Because if you're the pastor, then you can change the department.
And have to, and as a senior leader, they're going to have to get an answer to God for that.
Right.
And if he's showing them something to implement or change or adjust, we have to trust that they're hearing from God and adapt. Yeah. So, and again, you're not here for your own agenda. Right. You're here for the higher, greater purpose of God. Yes. To do that. So, and it causes you to make a decision. Am I going to stay here and do this? Right. And it's easy to bolt. It's easy to run. And so when you're being corrected, your flesh doesn't like it. Nobody's flesh likes it. But again, it yields a fruit of righteousness in you. You grow from it. Yeah. And then maybe even later down the road, you see why something happened. You might not have seen it in the moment, but then you go, okay, I understand now. Yeah. I remember there was a time we were going from one building to another, and Pastor Mark had made a decision with someone that we were working with in the community that was taking over the building. And so they were not operating above board and all that. And, and so I was vehement against that person and that kind of thing. And then it caused a little, rockiness in my relationship with him. And I was adamant about, why are you
doing this? You know what they're doing.
And then later, I was listening to Pastor Nancy Dufresne about something, and she said, we've paid thousands and thousands of dollars to stay in a place of peace, even when we knew we were right and the other person was wrong.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I saw it. He was paying for peace.
Yeah.
And doing the will of God, what he thought was right. And God helped us sail right through that thing. So I had to go back and apologize and say, now I see on the other side, and I apologize for my behavior in the midst of that you saw something I didn't see.
Yeah.
And God helped me to see that. And so, I had to go back and say, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I understand now.
Yeah, I understand now. And God brought me that answer. So on the other side of it, that I could see, what was happening in the moment. Yeah.
Well, but to be able to stay in peace.
Yeah.
That's, a word that we got from the Lord, in our time of prayer not long ago, well, maybe a few months ago, but was, stay in peace. Because if everyone is in turmoil and in confusion and no one knows what's going on or who to turn to, when they find, that place of peace, they're going to come to that place of peace.
And the word says that we will go forth in peace.
Yes.
And so if you can't get to peace, you won't go forth. So that's a progression there. You will go forth in peace. So you have find that place of peace first so that you can move forward in that. Yeah.
Everything we operate in has to be at that place of peace. Yeah. And, that ties in with forgiveness. You have to stay in forgiveness. To stay in peace, to stay in faith, and to stay in faith, you have to stay in love. Yes. And we got a lot of work to do.
Be able to see, the next step or where God's taken us, and so you can get stuck there in the place of unforgiveness.
Yes.
And just spin your wheels in that. Even get over into bitterness.
Yes.
I've had family members that I've done that with, and it causes you to spew your seeds out of bitterness and in their garden, and you don't want to do that. It causes health problems and financial ills and all of that.
Everything is out of whack.
In a place of peace, even when you don't understand.
Right.
If you can maintain that place of peace and then follow on to know with him.
And bitterness is so easy to spread. Yeah. We the boys love to blow dandelions. And so we were, looking out in our backyard the other day, and there was like you couldn't even see grass. There were so many dandelions. Oh, wow. And so our spiritual son Joel was there, and he was like, "Did somebody blow a dandelion?" I was like, "Yeah, we blow dandelions, all the time. Me and the boys will go outside, we'll blow the dandelions." He said, "Well, when you blow them, their seeds spread, and that's why they're so it's just like a tree. When you plant the seed." I didn't know that either, but now, and then I walked over to another corner in our backyard, dandelions everywhere. But I tie that in with it's just like bitterness. You can say one word to someone. And you're spreading those seeds, and they go to the next person, and they spread those seeds, and then sooner rather than later, you have this infestation of bitterness.
That's something that you don't want.
that is something you do not want, and you have to work in overtime to get over that. Yeah. Man, that is. You can stay out of bitterness and out of unforgiveness. Yes. That is, you need to stay in love, stay in peace, do everything you can to stay in love and stay in peace.
And that's a condition of your heart, too.
Yes.
And then it clouds out, and when those weeds are there, it crowds out the right things that are supposed to, that even lead you forward.
Yes.
In the plan of God. And so I've been so blessed and so honored to be a part of Cornerstone Word of Life Church. And not only that, just it being there to help them, I found my purpose there. And I found the fulfillment of my own heart in, not knowing even years ago you're supposed to pray for your pastors. I came out of denominational church, and our pastor was a circuit preacher, so every Sunday he was somewhere different. And so he was the preacher, not necessarily the pastor. So when I came over to these crazy charismatic Word of Faith people, they started teaching us that how important it was to pray for your pastor and give your supply towards the plan of God. And then I realized in that, because kingdom operates on seed time and harvest and sowing and reaping. So when I would sow into them, then I begin to see my place in that. But if I throw my hands up and just leave, then I got to start all over again somewhere. And the condition you leave one place is how you enter into another. And so if you hadn't taken care of and tended your own heart here, he can't move you into the next place, because you carry that with you wherever you go. And so he's helped me in that. And so, again, setting your heart to pray. And then if something is rocky and they're resetting your heart to them, then you find your own place and your own fulfillment in the plan of God as well.
Oh, it's funny you mentioned, what you're sowing in this season is what you're going to, get out of your next one. We, while we were at Rhema, I volunteered. I was a great church member. I volunteered in the kids ministry, and eventually we got hooked into worship and stuff. But, I was a great church member. Pastor did not volunteer. He was like, we in school every day. I don't know what department I want to volunteer in. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to rest. I'm going to rest. I've been serving at my grandparents' church all my life. And as soon as we go back, we'll eventually work towards taking the church. And so I'm just going to rest. We moved home, didn't have no help, none at all. For about, we started getting some trickles of help, but not like long term. Right. And we're still kind of getting trickles, and some of our help was about to move to Japan. So, say yes to the Lord. I'm just kidding. We're ecstatic for them. But, help has come and gone and come and gone and come and gone. But we've needed long-term help. And so Pastor did the Christmas banquet at Rhema this year, and we were at dinner with Pastor and Mrs. Hagan, and Josh apologized to them, and he was like, I didn't serve, I didn't volunteer, and I should have, because when we moved back home and we're trying to pray and help, the Lord said, you ain't had good help, because that's the amount of time that you didn't serve at Rhema. I said, oh boy.
Oh, those seeds came up, didn't
I said, I volunteered. You should have been volunteering. But say that to say, that's a casual plug. Volunteer at your churches.
Yes,
your pastors and the staff need all the help they can get. And if you go to Dominion Church, we need help in the nursery, because all four of my kids... All four of my kids are taking over the nursery. And thank God for grandparents, because they have just jumped right along. We've lost some nursery volunteers recently, so they're like, okay, we're just, we'll do nursery. But I'm like, we need a rotation. I know grandparents, y'all will do it. You'll do it every day. Yeah. But I'm sure they want to be in church some too, and not wrestling my boys.
I know.
All of them.
Oh my goodness.
So we moved home, and Josh said, we're going to grow the church one way or another, and we've been growing.
You're doing your part.
We've been doing our part. We've been fruitful and multiplying. But anyway, but no, saying yes and being committed to your yes. Yeah. Back to that song I was listening to. I played it. I'm probably going to listen to it all the way home too. I hadn't heard it in years. And then Josh played it in the car the other day, and I was like, wow, like I needed this. Yeah. But it says, with every beat of my heart, there's a resounding yes. Mm-hmm. And every breath that I breathe, my soul screams yes. Wow. So I was like, yes, yes, yes. Yes, Lord, whatever it is you've had us to do, whatever you want us to do, yes. And, in this season that we've been in as a church recently, that's been very hard. Yeah. We've talked about jumping ship. We're like, it's hard. Don't nobody else want to be here? We might as well jump too. But no, Pastor was in prayer, and the Lord showed him, himself at our same church when he was about 12 or 13 years old, laying at the altar at the church, just in prayer, deep prayer. Goodness. And he was, crying out to God, yes, whatever you have me do. Yes, yes, yes. And the Lord said, you gave me your yes back then.
Oh my
So
goodness.
You gave me your yes back then. So no jumping ship now, because you gave me that yes. Yeah. And so now we're reinstating and rolling with the yes and running with the yes. Because God, you've asked us to do this. Mm-hmm. And now you've brought along help with us. And so every person's yes is so important to the plan of God.
Jesus' yes was important.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
If he hadn't. I was just talking to the staff the other day that, in the upper room, he laid the stake in the ground of, I'm going to the cross. This is what's getting ready to happen. But when he got in the garden, his flesh started recoiling
Yes.
back from that. But he said, nevertheless,
Yes.
not my will,
Not
but
mine.
your will be done.
Yes.
And so that's his yes. When
Yes.
he put that yes stuck
Absolutely.
in, it carried him through the garden.
Yes.
It carried him through the beatings. It carried him through the cross. It carried him through hell.
Yes.
Until he went to the mercy seat and sat down.
Yes.
Put the blood. And if he hadn't said yes, what kind of mess would we be in today? And he was our ultimate example in that.
Yes.
And he faced something harder than we ever would face.
And I was thinking about him, on the crossover on my drive, and they beat him.
Yeah.
I mean, it was awful. Yeah. He was, unrecognizable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yet he was on the cross and said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And then I thought about Mary, and I'm like,
she said yes to the plan of God.
Man, they up there, your baby up there, and he's up there forgiving him. I'm sure she's like, "Why are you saying that?" I'd have been like, "Boy." I'm just kidding. But no, the amount of crucifying your flesh is exactly what Jesus did, and dying to self to fulfill the plan of God is exactly what Jesus did. And for all of us,
a level
his
of
sacrifice
consecration and dedication and yielding his will to the will of God. And in him doing that, we're here today because of him saying yes to that. So, yeah.
And he says yes, and then we act like it's a pain to say yes to volunteer in the nursery at Dominion Church. I'm just kidding. All right. Well, we love you guys. Would you like to pray us out?
Sure. Absolutely. Well, Father, we just thank you for the time that we've had together and the rich fellowship within. And Father, I just lift up Pastor Josh and Pastor Hope to you in Dominion Church. And I thank you for the plan and the purpose that you have for them. And Father, I just thank you right now that you call Timothys to them. You call people who are like-minded and like-hearted with them, that they would have the same care for your people that they have. So we just thank you right now that you, from the north, south, east, and west, we call in people for their life to come and help serve the purpose of the plan of God and fulfill that which you have for Dominion Church in the future. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right.